Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Thunder Today podcast. I am your host, Dylan Hibbard, and Game 3 of the NBA Finals was yesterday, and the Pacers took Game 3. This was the most convincing game of the series for the Pacers. They kind of felt like they were playing their brand of basketball, and it showed, and they came out with the 116-107 win in this, and there's going to be a lot of different things talked about in this game, but the first thing I kind of want to talk about is how well Tyrese Haliburton played. We kind of talked about last episode how people were questioning his aggressiveness and if he could get through this Thunder defense and actually have a great game. And, well, last night proved that he could. He had 22 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds, nearly a triple-double in this, which is I didn't realize that until I looked at the box score after the game of how close he actually was to that. And you also had Pascal Siakam with 21 points. You had the player of the game in Benedict Mathurin scoring 27 off the bench, a near 30 ball. And we'll kind of talk about that here in a second more with the bench look. But for the Thunder, it wasn't a clean game overall. They had too many turnovers. It didn't look like they ever settled in, really. And even after the first quarter, you were looking at a 6-point lead going into the second, but it just never felt like they were confident enough playing on that road. Indiana's a very hard place to play, and they're right up there with Oklahoma in that echelon of arenas that whenever it gets going, it gets loud in there. And we saw that firsthand last night as it was just loud, and it felt like the Thunder could never get their footing in on this game. As you saw, Shea struggled for the most part, but he was still Shea. He had 24 and 8. You had J-Dub give you 26. You had Chet give you 20. Lou Dort with another great game with 4 threes. But other than that, nobody else really did anything. The Thunder bench was not contributing at all in this game, so it felt like the minutes where you didn't have at least two of the big three out there that the Thunder were going to struggle, and it felt like that throughout the entire game, which is going to kind of lead me in to this next point about how bad the Thunder's bench was outscored in this. The Thunder's bench was outscored 49-18, and people always talk about how OKC's depth is one of their, outside of their defense, is probably their second biggest strength as a team. And to get outscored by 31 points is kind of wild. And we know the Pacers bench and their depth is right there with OKC, but before this series, people were like, well, we'll still take OKC's bench on this. But when you get a near 30 ball from Mathurin, you get a really good TJ McConnell game where he had 10. He had those massive steals that where the Thunder were trying to get going. He would sneak around, steal it, and just end up with a layup. And that happened too many times for my liking. And for outside of Alex Caruso on the Thunder bench, it felt like nobody came to play. They tried to get some Aaron Wiggins minutes in there. He didn't do much. Hartenstein had a couple buckets, but it didn't feel like he made that big of a difference. And the thing I was questioning was Isaiah Joe hit 2 threes in 4 minutes and then never played again. So I'm curious to see why that happened, especially when you needed outside shooting in this game. And I feel like Joe's one of those guys, when he goes 2 for 2 and his first 2 shots on 3, you kind of need to let him stay out there and play that out until he starts cooling down from 3, because if you keep him out there, you never know. He might have 4 or 5 threes tonight, just like Lou Dort, and we're talking about a whole different game. So I'm questioning why they didn't keep him in for longer. He never came back in after those 2 threes. So that kind of makes me question the coaching staff and why they thought that was an idea. And I understand Joe hasn't really played this series at all, or really in the playoffs that much at all, but he's one of those guys, if he sees those first couple shots go down and he's feeling it, he can become deadly from 3, and that's what the Thunder needed. Outside of their big 3, nobody else was contributing a little bit of Lou Dort, but outside of that, nobody else was helping. So I was pretty upset about that, but we'll see how that plays out for the rest of the series. I just feel like the Thunder's bench, I don't know what happened with them last night, but it just felt like they weren't as aggressive as they have been. They weren't getting those big shots, and it kind of showed. It showed Benedict Mathurin had one of those big games where when you get a 30 ball from the bench, it shows and you win. Just like last game in game 2, Caruso had 20, Wiggins had 38, and the Thunder win. So this series honestly might come down to whose bench plays better, and that wouldn't shock me whatsoever because these starting lineups are so equal. The bench has to make a difference, and for the rest of the series, the bench might have to be the difference maker here for the Thunder because now the Thunder are looking back against the wall. The Thunder, realistically, they need to win these next 2 games, 4 and 5. You can't go down. Definitely have to win game 4. You got to have it 2-2 going back to game 5 at home. But Thunder got to win 3 out of 4, and I still feel very confident that they'll do that. Pacers still have to beat the Thunder 2 more times, and that's no easy task. So we'll see how that kind of goes, and we'll transition into this. The Thunder lost a turnover battle as well. And for the Thunder, that's very rare. Thunder live and die by turnovers, and when they're not forcing them or they're not playing outstanding defense where the other team can't get shots up, they struggle. And for this, it just felt like there was butter on the ball. Early on in the game, it felt like every time J-Dub and Chet tried to dribble downhill at any point to the elbow, they were just missing the ball or not missing the ball, they were just fumbling the ball and turning it over. So I'm not too sure what that was. It was a pretty frustrating game from the turnover sense because the Thunder are so good at limiting themselves turnovers and forcing so many more. So when you get one of these games where they end up turning the ball over more than the opposing team, it kind of shocks you, and it shows, and it showed in this game. And for the entire second half, it felt like the Pacers were just kind of, if it was close, it kind of felt like they would hit a big 3 and they would get that momentum back, and the Thunder could just never crawl. It was close up until it was 198, and then the Pacers kind of got that fourth quarter magic going, and they never looked back, and that was kind of the difference for me in this game. Excuse me. And for the turnover side of things, it's playing hard. It didn't feel like the Thunder were playing nearly as hard. We had to switch so many looks on the ball screens, and for me, it was just a thing where turnovers cost us. It just simply comes down to that, and if we can't take care of the ball and then force more turnovers on the other side, we're not going to win. And the Pacers did a really good job of that last night, and we'll see how Game 4 plays out. Some of the keys to me for Game 4 for a win on Friday, because, I mean, this is a must-win at this point. Obviously, limiting the turnovers. We got to see just better all-around play from the Thunder. You look at the percentages, and we shot really well from 3, which is good, but we almost didn't shoot enough, and Shea wasn't as efficient as he could have been. J-Dub and Chet played great games, but the bench has to contribute more. There has to be that fourth or fifth guy that contributes 10 points. You know you're going to get around 30 to 20 from your big 3. They're going to combine for around 60 most nights. Then your fourth and fifth guy are the biggest. Last night, Lou Dort was the fourth guy. The Thunder didn't have a fifth guy because nobody else was above 8 points. So for me, the Thunder have to get somebody has to come up big on the bench. It's not even on the bench if Kason Wallace, a Lou Dort, Caruso, you have Wiggins, Hartenstein. Somehow those 5 players need to combine for around 30 points if the Thunder, 30 to 40, if the Thunder want a chance in this Game 4, because Now we're on, instead of having this 2 day break, we only have today off, and then we're back at it tomorrow. Which I think the Thunder will play off of that better. I think after a loss, you don't want to have to sit that 2 day period out. You just want that one rest day, and then you want right back at it to get out there and get a win back under your belt. And like we've seen every single time in this playoffs, the Thunder are so much better following a loss. It just feels like after a loss, they're like, oh yeah, we need to actually play and be to the best of our ability. And it just feels like games fours, it feels like we're going to split these first four. We're going to go back to OKC tied 2-2. And then at that point, it becomes a best of three with two of those games being at home. So if you're a Thunder fan, I understand the stress and like anxiety of what might happen, but the Thunder have proven that after a loss, they're gonna come out and most likely win this game, and I have the utmost confidence that we will. I don't see Shea or J Dub or Chet letting the Thunder go down 3-1, and we're gonna have to play some better defense. Now that we've seen Tyrese get under his belt at home, he's gonna want to be more aggressive. So we're gonna have to go back to that look of slow Tyrese down. We're gonna have to figure something out for the bench, whether it's Mathurin, McConnell, Toppin. They all played huge minutes, so it just comes down to the bench, limiting turnovers, and just playing overall better basketball. And I have no doubt that we will, and I just hope that you guys believe in the Thunder as much as I will. But let me know down below what your guys' thought about this Game 3 loss was. Once again, Game 4 is Friday at 7:30, same time as always. So it's been a great time talking to you guys. See you in the next one. Peace.